Welcome to the Rich Lady Revolution, redefining rich with Diane McKendrick. Hey, lovely lady, I see you. You're an ambitious, high-achieving woman, driven, passionate, and ready for more. More money, more impact, more freedom. This is the place where women just like you come together from all over the world to break the old rules and redefine what it truly means to be rich. Because being a rich lady is about so much more than money. Joining the Rich Lady Revolution with those two sisters is about more than the money in your bank account. It's about building wealth on your terms, doing what you love, with who you love, and creating a life that feels as good as it looks. It's about stepping into your unshakable power and purpose. This podcast, combined with my 5th book, is your personal invitation to step into your rich lady identity. I will be here to educate, inspire, and empower you along the way, to support you to cut the crap, do the thing, and be the rich lady you were born to be. So if you are ready to elevate your income, your impact, and your life, the revolution starts now. Hello, and welcome back to the Rich Lady Revolution. This podcast is podcast number 262. Can you believe it? I'm nearly up to 300 podcasts. So that's really exciting. And I'm excited today because I've got a lady here called Amanda Fisher, and we met recently at the Curated Circle, and we were buddied up and partnered up, and we started talking. And instantly I was just so curious to learn more about Amanda and what she did. And I think it was Andrew Komenos that had connected us prior to that, through BX maybe, I think. So all these networking things, choose your places wisely because you want to be around the right people. And I feel like Amanda Fisher is one of the right people. So Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself, let everyone know who you are, what you do, and then we'll tell everyone what the podcast is about.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Amanda Fisher, Financial Clarity. I'm a fractional CFO that works with businesses to help them to understand their numbers. I have a chartered accountant by background, so I come from a numbers base, but I don't look after the tax stuff necessarily. I'm more interested in the management reporting and the information to help business owners to understand where the numbers are and make better decisions.
Yeah, everybody needs that. Business owners to make better decisions. And this is perfect timing because I was just saying to you before we pressed record that in the Rich Lady Revolution, which is our lowest tiered membership last month, we were talking about the chaos cleanup in financial literacy. So it was all about the numbers that you need to know that are not talked about. And this is one of my memories of when I first met you. That was one of the first things you said, was that you want to look at the numbers that people don't talk about that really matter. So I think we'll dedicate the next 30 minutes here to hearing from you on which numbers, why, maybe a little bit of your journey, like the reason I wanted to deliver on this and I wanted to interview other people who get it, right? Is because I didn't, as a beginner business owner, I didn't know which numbers to look at. And that became a really horrifically terrifying time of my life because I was a business owner, but I'd never been to business school. I just looked at the main things. Actually, funny story. I think I've told you this, but I'll tell everyone else. So about 6 years ago when I started my business, I was making enough money. I probably should have, like I made a lot of money really quickly, but I didn't manage it. So I ended up on the kitchen floor with the tax bill bigger than my previous annual wage, just like sobbing, crying because I didn't know which numbers to look at. But prior to that, as things started to move, it was actually Andrew, when I very first met him, we went for a coffee and he said, "So what are you using to invoice people?" And I just looked at him, I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He was talking about revenue, gross profit, this, but I didn't even know what any of that terminology meant. And I actually wrote about it in one of my books. I didn't mention any names, but I remember Andrew just looking at me in the eyes, and we'd only just met, and he said, "Diane McKendrick, like, you need to know this." And I just felt so bad. I felt like an imposter. And I know that if I had that experience, that I know that there's others out there experiencing that. And that's why I want to deliver on it. And that's why I want to speak to other experts like yourself, Amanda, to tell us your version of which numbers, why, what everybody else isn't telling you. Because I know you're an expert in that, like really looking at those important things that you don't know, that we don't know unless we know, because that was also my experience. I didn't know, I wanted to know, but I didn't know what questions to ask. So I can guarantee never will this happen again, partly because my sister's in the business and she's really good at this kind of stuff. But don't be like me. You don't have to learn the hard way. You've got experts here. Listen to this podcast. If Amanda says something that really resonates with you, just reach out to her. I'm sure you probably got some discovery call or your own podcast, or I think you've written a couple of books as well. Like, yeah, reach out. So, yeah, tell us about the numbers. Tell us why you do this and which numbers do we really need to be looking for in our business.
Yeah, no, awesome. What you said before is so true. So many people start out in business because they're good at what they do, or they've got a passion for something, or there's something that starts them, but they don't have any financial literacy. No, there's nothing that says you have to go and do this course or that course or something else course on the financial side. And to be honest, some people even stumble over the marketing and the sales side because, again, they're good at what they do, but they don't know how to market it. That's not my space, obviously. I'm more in the numbers, but there are numbers that come out of the marketing space as well. You know, how many leads you're getting, what's your conversion rate, those sorts of things. But I want to focus more on the financial aspects because I think that that's where people starting out to trip up. When you get to a certain size and you're growing, you can trip up. So there are various stages where you can trip up if you don't have a basic understanding.
And is that what you see? Like you notice now, because you've been doing this for a while, seeing businesses go through the different phases and what's required at each stage, so that that basic 0 to 500,
Yeah,
something's required, and then you get to the 500 to the million, and then there's something different needed, and then
correct.
you go from the million to two, and then the 2 to 5, and then the 5 to 10 and beyond. So you can look at someone's business and support them and prep them for all of those phases because you know what's required in the phase they haven't even hit yet. So you're helping them set up for that without even maybe the business owner even knowing, but you're
Yeah.
educating people, right? That's what I was craving. I was craving someone to speak to me, to educate me, to tell me about all of this. So I'm so grateful that I met you and so grateful to be learning from, people who've been there and done that.
Yeah, and I think they're starting out in business. The main things are getting your BAS, understanding what BAS is, GST, making sure you're invoicing correctly, those sorts of things in the startup phase. And early on in the piece, how much money are you taking out of the business, putting money aside for tax, for GST, those types of things are important in the early stages. But once you get beyond that, then there's actually, no, I'm going to step back. Even in the early phases, you've got to have what I call a runway. Working capital is the technical term, but it's enough money to have in your bank account. That's real money in the bank account, not a pretend sort of I might have it in a credit card or something. Money in the bank that's going to cover ideally 6 months of your costs. Now, in the early days, I say, okay, as long as you got 3 months. But if you don't have that 6 months, you need to be working towards saving that money so that when, depending on the type of business you're in, but if you've got some major clients, if a client doesn't pay the bill at the end of the month and suddenly you're now 20,000 short, well, where's the money coming from to pay the wages, to pay the rent, to pay the suppliers, whatever it is in your business? So having that runway of, I say, 6 months is key, no matter what the size of your business.
Yep. So that's one of the first phases is ensuring that you've always got, I think we call it a cash buffer. So you
Yeah,
call it a runway. Some people call it
cash
working
of cash.
capital. Yeah, stash of cash, whatever your cash cushion pillow, whatever you want to call it. One of
Yeah,
the first milestones in every business is to ensure, first of all, 3 months and then 6 months. Once you hit 6 months consistently for
yeah.
a
That's a
prolonged
keeper.
period of time, then the business and show yourself you can do it because we're all about being methodical, doing the boring things, showing up and making sure everything is action balanced. Every day we have something called money matters because this is me, right? I don't know if your clients do this, but I knew it mattered, but I didn't know what to do or how. So little old me, I opened my calendar and I put in there do something like money management or something every morning. Did I do
Yeah,
it? No, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was looking for. And then one day I thought, I've just got to change the name of it. I'm a visionary, change the color of it. So I started to call it Money Matters. And I put a little emoji in there because I love nature and organic things,
Yep.
little leaf in there and a little money symbol. And then I actually started doing it, looking at what I knew at the time, the numbers that needed to be looked at, shuffling things, looking at the cash buffer, seeing when we were at with that. But yeah, call it something and get your 3 to 6 months runway. So then that puts you in really good, safe
So,
um,
yeah.
uh,
It, yeah, and
habits.
yeah, as I say, it depends on this type of business, whether you're selling products, whether you're selling service, if you've got staff, like it doesn't matter because no matter how big, small or big you are, you're going to have months where something's not going to happen, where some big bill comes out of the blue, or you've got, if you've been in business for a while, someone might um, leave, and you've got some big annual leave payout or long service leave payout. You've got some chunks that need to come that you weren't planning for, or you've got contracts and for some reason the money doesn't come when it's supposed to.
You know what? The amount of times people told me this, and I'd nod and smile and go, yeah, that's never going to happen to me. And then it did. It
Yeah,
did. So several years ago, one of my first mentors ever, he called it something different again, but he said, put 10% of your wage away, everything you receive, 10% away into a
yeah,
cash cushion.
yeah,
And in my head, I was like, my husband's an international airline pilot. We're never going to need this. But I did what I was told because I'm a good student. And my gosh, man, I'm so glad that I did because overnight Gus lost his job. International airline pilot, COVID, and we
yeah.
had 6 months for our family. I hadn't done it for the business. I hadn't even started the business yet. But because I had done what the coach said, I could sleep at night. It took so much pressure off. It was really, we were on struggle street there, but it just took the pressure off so much. So I just want to share that little journey and story because you might be listening to this and maybe you are just starting out and nodding and smiling, thinking, yeah, Daisy, yeah, whatever. Yeah, Amanda, thanks. And carrying on with your life and your business and whatever you got going on. You can give your feedback on how people can do that, whether it's 10% or how that might look for people to actually start doing it. Or you could be established business owner. I've got clients, multi-million dollar businesses that don't have any profit in their business. They're under way more stress than us that are in a smaller business that have profit that we can take out and money matters every day where it's being managed. So whether you're a start or established, please take this very seriously because it really could be the difference between like going down the
Survival.
gurgler,
Yeah,
your
correct.
relationship, your home, your house, your livelihood, and actually managing through winter times because it is seasonal. I believe we are entering another winter. I feel like there just was one back there. Not sure that we've all had time to prepare for it and we'll be fine, we'll work it out. But what Amanda is telling you today could like save so much for you. So, what do you reckon? How can people do this? How can they just get that cash buffer sorted?
Look, I mean, first of all, before you start in business, ideally you should have a chunk of money there so you've got enough to pay your bills and keep yourself going as a starting point. But look, the 10% bit, if you haven't got anything if you haven't got a buffer at all, is that 10% every week, whatever's come into the bank, 10% off into a savings account, out of the business bank account where you sort of don't touch it, don't spend it, is a great way to start building it up if you haven't, because 10%'s not, it's a good number, but it's not so onerous that you're not going to be able to pay the bill. You shouldn't be so onerous that you're not going to be able to pay the bill. But you've touched on another point that is where I really want to head, which was the $1 million businesses not really making profit. Now, unfortunately, a lot of businesses, they look really successful on the outside, but you get under the hood of their finances and suddenly find they're not making much profit. Cash flow as a result is a strain. And if they haven't got that cash buffer, it's a bigger strain. But often what's happened over time is that cash buffer has been whittled away because of the lack of profit, and particularly if they're actually making losses. So the numbers that I love to focus on, and it's probably not as important in your early days, although it's really cool if you can. But once you've got sort of 500,000 plus in revenue, if you're selling more than one service or more than one product, knowing exactly how much it costs you to deliver or make and deliver whatever the thing is that you're doing, how much it's costing you for each of those services or products. Because when you do that, you'll start to see that some are making a better margin than others. So if you start looking at percentages, so you're selling something for $1,000 and it's costing you $500. Okay, you've got a 50% margin being the difference. You're selling something for $500 and it's costing you $300 and you've got a $200 margin, you're only making 40%. So understanding which parts are making the best percentage.
So is that called profit margin?
That's your gross margin.
The gross margin. So
That's your
looking
gross
at
margin.
what your product or service is sold for and
Correct.
what it costs you to deliver that, whether it's a product or a service.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the difference between the cost and what you're selling it for is a number.
Yep.
But if you then take that, which is the gross margin, if you take that gross margin number and divide it by the revenue amount to get a percentage, that's your gross margin percentage. And that's the bit I look at. And I had an example, and this wasn't even delving deep. I had a mate of mine, actually. He was in business with two of his friends. They had 3 divisions, sort of one each. One was website design, one was doing websites, one was graphic design, and the other was IT services. It was quite a lot of years ago. And they all they'd been doing really well, and then they got to the point where they weren't sure what, they felt like they were busy, but they weren't making the money they were making before, and they each said, oh, well, I'm really busy, I'm making the money, blah, blah, blah. So we simply did a division on those 3 buckets. It wasn't even detail within it. It was detail on those 3 buckets. And what we found was the graphic design was back in the day when Facebook banners were a big thing, and everyone was creating their Facebook banners back in that, like I say, it was a while back. And
when people were paying for that sort of stuff.
People were paying for that sort of stuff, and they were flat out busy. They had a stack of staff working for them, under 10 or 12 or 15 staff. Like it was busy and big, and they were flat out. It was losing money. It was costing them more to produce and for the guy to pay the wages for the guys to do. I think they were selling for $100 or whatever it was, but it was costing them $150 for every $100 they made, something like that. They were losing money hand over fist. Website stuff, yeah, it was making a bit of making profit. It was making good profit. It was kind of what you'd expect a business to be making. And then the IT services was stupid profits. Like their costs were minimum and they were making really, really big margins. Now, what that meant was, because what basically happened was the banner ads were feeding into the websites and potentially then to the IT services. So they didn't not do the other, but they put the focus on their marketing on where they were making the money. So they put more marketing into the IT services and they put more marketing in the website. They still did the other. I think they did increase the prices, so they weren't losing quite as much, but they knew it was a loss leader to get people into their business to then upsell them into something else. So understanding that helped them to create their marketing to get an overall better result for the business. And 3 months later, because the guys were nimble and quick and able to move, 3 months later the financial results were markedly different from where they'd been when we just did this very simple division. It wasn't even down into the, I'd go, today I'd go a lot deeper than that. But just even those sorts of things, looking at that and being able to go, okay, ouch, this type of service, I'm selling it for X, it's taking me 5 hours to do it, and that puts my hourly rate at some pathetic amount, less than minimum wage, or like some way below what I want it to be. And this other thing I do, I charge a lot more. It only takes me 2 hours, and hey, happy days, my hourly rate's through the roof. So you want to be doing more of that. So it's understanding that, and they're the numbers that I love to focus on, because it allows decisions to be made around staffing, around marketing, like where you
Around
put your resources.
everything. So
It's
when
everything.
this is the
Correct.
thing that I'm hearing you say, when you know the numbers and you know which numbers are important and you know how to calculate that,
Yeah,
you can then make very wise, data-driven decisions.
correct.
And I think that's where a lot of businesses lack. And, we did until we knew better, we can do better. But we were like running off intuition or just having a look at the overall thing. But like we hadn't gone into each of the products and really worked that number out, like what's costing us. And when we did do that, or a version of what you're explaining, what we realized, as an example, something like the cacao really doesn't make us money. When we take our time into account, probably costs a bit of money. But I
Yeah.
said to Michelle, we can make a data-driven decision now because we have this. How many people from the cacao, because we have our own cacao blend, convert into something else?
Yeah.
How many people, when they're opening their cupboard, the first thing they're seeing in the morning is our two faces? So there's so much numbers and literacy, and then there's also the thing that you can't put a price on. But if you want your business to be long term and sustainable, you need to know the numbers that matter, and then add the ones that can't be factored in on top of that. Don't do it the other way around, because otherwise you won't have a business. Especially
Correct.
because I work with a lot of spiritual women, and I am one. Oh, I'll just feel into that. No. Well, yes, but know your data first so you can
Exactly.
make a data-driven decision and allow the intuition or the spirituality, whatever it is that you want to do, that you can actually have a
Mhm.
long-term sustainable business. Yeah, I
Correct.
love that. And so that's what you spend most of your time doing, is like going in and drilling down into people's business
Yeah.
so they can make those data-driven decisions that are going to grow the business, give them less work so they can have profit
Correct.
and peace, which is the message that we put out there as those two sisters, me and my older sister. It's like you can have profit in your business and peace,
Yeah.
not profit at the expense of your peace.
No.
Or
Correct.
there's another bunch of people out there who have plenty of peace, but they're not making any money. Like you said, when you pull back the curtain, it's like,
Correct.
yeah, it looks really rosy from the outside, but you ain't making any money. This isn't long term or sustainable, and this is why you're not sleeping at night.
Correct.
So,
Because it's all about that. I mean, the worst thing is, waking up in the morning and you're stressing about, I've got wages to pay today, and do I dare look at the bank account and see if I've got enough money to cover it? Like there's a client I'm working with at the moment that it's every week is a lurch into, but they're not making the changes. We haven't been
yeah,
able to pull this data out that I'm wanting to do because
yep,
of the way their systems are set up and their staffing levels, etc., etc. So it's about putting a conscious effort in, and is about changing the way you're recording the data.
yes.
I worked with a florist once, and she did a time and motion study of every half an hour of how long it took her in half an hour. How many bunches did her experienced florist make? How many bunches did the sort of the trainee or the intermediate make? And she, like, we delved in, we had it down to the nth degree, how much dollars on the budget for the flower costs, the cost of going to collect the flowers was built in from the markets, the cost of the putting them into the pretty bunches, the wrappers, the delivery, the whole thing, how much it cost to deliver to different parts of town, and factor all of that in. Like you can get into that detail if you're prepared to put the time into it.
Yeah, oh, I love this. I love how much you love it. I can tell by listening to you talk. You open that spreadsheet and you gather the data and put it all in, and then you like feed it like this is how it's done. And I really love that because it's not how most people look at it. Or not most business owners that I've noticed. We just look at the big picture. We look at, there's so many people out there, oh, $2 million business, $5 million business. And it was pretty early on in the piece. Michelle used to say to me all the time, she said it on social media, she swore, she said, I don't give a shit how much you're making. How much profit have you got in your business? And how much time are you spending getting that? And I think this is the new way. I haven't heard many other people talk about it. And it's really refreshing to hear you talk about it the way that you do. And I can really sense and feel your passion for this
Yeah.
and how
And what's
much.
interesting is some of that doesn't have to be spreadsheets. A lot of this can be inbuilt into, well, I love Zero. I'm a Zero girl from way back. So Zero's got the functionality to put the information and allocate it in the right buckets in Zero.
Right. But if you don't know, you don't know. This is why you need someone like Amanda to go through your business with a fine-tooth comb to give you your life back, to
Yeah,
allow you to sleep at night so you
that's
can
it.
wake up in the morning and not worry about paying your bills, but just be methodical. I say to my ladies, a boring life, if you feel bored, that's great because it's a calm central nervous system. And you mentioned
Okay.
something before, which I think is really important. I can't remember exactly how you said it, but things need to change. And I
Yes.
think I was kind of wondering how we could work together and collaborate. With what you do, people have patterns and programs running in their head about money, about the way that it works.
Yeah.
And I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing with you, you could give all the information to someone. You could set up all the zero files and everything that needs to be done. But if the program in their head is saying, I'm unworthy, or I don't know how, or I've got to work really hard, no matter what you do as the expert, is going to make them give you the data, be methodical in their approach, set up their money matters, do their cash buffer. Like it's looking at people's programming on how they approach money and basically self-worth.
Correct.
And
That's
do you come across that a lot in your business? You can tell as soon as you meet someone, or
Yes, I do. And I think one of the things that is different about me to most accounting people is that I'm a teacher at heart. So when I was in high school, I remember being in chemistry class and I didn't really have friends in school, to be honest, but the kids all liked me because I could help them, right? Because I was a smart kid. And so they said to me, you explain things so much better than the teacher does. You should be a teacher because you'd be really good at it. And at that point, the thought of me standing in front of a high school chemistry class with a bunch of unruly kids at the back that were talking and paying no attention, which was my experience in high school, was like, there's no way I'm going to be a teacher standing in front of that class. Like, that's just not me at all. But what I didn't realize is that's how I do what I do. I'm always just teaching. And so even in my early accounting days when I had, just doing tax compliance work and, the client would come in and say, oh, just tell me where to sign. I go, no, no, no. I'm going to go through the numbers. See this, you made, 300,000 in revenue. You spent this much on this. You made, $50,000 worth of profit and you're going to pay $20,000 in tax and blah, blah, blah. And what I found over the years was these guys would come in or girls, doesn't matter, guys, gals, they would come back and go, look, I've made 500,000. That's good. Oh, and I made 150,000 profit. Oh, that's good. Hang on a minute. You've got 200,000 there in legal fees. I didn't pay 200,000 in legal fees. And they were just learning from what I did without me even knowing I was teaching back in those days, but looking back on it. So whilst yes, there's that mindset of I'm a creative, I don't know numbers, was never good at maths at school, blah blah blah.
like you in my
Uh,
head.
that it's if you're prepared to kind of open up a little bit to go, okay, let me learn a few things, then it's amazing how much that sort of education message just
Well,
slowly
that's the thing,
seeps
right?
in. I'm
It's
insidious. I seep into your mind.
the education, and it's because it's not something you do, it's part of who you are. So it's the
Yeah.
education and the teaching that is coming from being in your vortex and in your world becomes contagious. And that's the pattern interrupt. That's the change. It's not someone trying to shove numbers down their throat. It's
Yeah.
so natural to you and you're so passionate about it that it just becomes contagious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the pattern change for people, which I think is really beautiful and a really gentle, fun, and exciting way to do it rather than be
Yeah.
waking up, scratching your head, how you're going to pay the bills and laying awake at night thinking, oh God, I know I've been through those days and I'm so grateful that we have set up our version of what you just explained because it really does give you peace of mind. And that, my friends, is priceless. And that's, Amanda, you do it in your way, looking at those numbers and drilling down and through teaching, we do it differently. I'm in business with my older sister, as you know, Michelle Ann. I haven't told you this yet. So she got sacked from the police force 4.5 years ago. She didn't get vaccinated. And so just lost her income overnight, pretty much, which was a pretty hectic time for her. So 4.5 years ago, she's in the good fight, so she might get a payout, but she had to go to get the payout. She had to go back to work. So she's at work. Her first day was yesterday. But she joined my business after stopping working for the police force. And we work with ambitious, driven business women to unlock the codes of both profit and peace. We do it in a different way to you, but we're always looking for experts that are, the best in their field, in their industry at what they do, so we can refer people, we can get education, we can be taught and shown along the journey. We do it through retreats, so we run retreats. We've got one coming up next weekend, Top Shelf Retreat. I've published 5 books now, onto my 6th. And then obviously the podcast is here to educate and teach people. I had a bit of shiny object syndrome in my young years. I created a protein powder, a jewelry range. When I worked out all the numbers that you just told me about, I was like, they're not making me any money. They actually cost me money a lot.
Yes.
That was a bit of shiny object. But once again, it cost me a lot of money. I actually did a podcast on that. But the price of the lesson that I learned was worth it. And because I made jewelry, people are out and about all over the world. And when they see this, they know that they're part of the community. And one of my biggest values is community. So I've had people call, ring, text, hey, I'm here, I'm on the Gold Coast, or I'm at a cafe. Someone's got your ring on. I just met someone who I know. So although it cost me a lot of money, I didn't make any money out of it. It paid me in another way, but don't do that. Run your numbers first, please. Get an expert on board so you don't have to learn the hard way like I did. And Amanda, if someone does, loving what they hear and they want to work with you or get to know you better, where can they go to either book a session with you or find out more?
Best place is my website, amandafisher.com.au.
Yep. Oh, that's, super easy. amandafisher.com.au. If anybody's listening to this from Amanda's friends, following, family, colleagues, you can find me, Diane McKendrick. Diane has one N, Diane, McKendrick, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. The website at the moment is www.thosetwosisters.com, but that, just top secret, is changing through the curated circle. I don't know if you're at the lunch, everyone's like, your branding shit. Your colors are all wrong. Who you're working with is not the old brand. So that week, how we get the takeaway, I took it away. We made all the changes and literally come back next week saying it's all changing, full rebrand. So there'd been whispers for a while, but when that's the curated circle, right? We sit around in the circle with business owners over the 500K. And we all mastermind. So we have a growth partner, a mutual connection, very intentional. And then you all give your biggest challenge and everyone gives you really brutal feedback on how to make it better.
Yep, they do.
That's pretty good. Are you going this Friday?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Where is it this week? Doughcraft, I think. Yep. So if anyone wants an invite to that, if you fit the criteria, it's 500K, business owner, and Andrew always said no dickhead policy. So
nice people. Do it the other way, not the negative. Do the positive. We want nice, friendly people who have good values.
Yeah, and people that care about other people. Like money is one thing, but you cannot buy authenticity.
Yeah.
And I did a post or a podcast, something recently, and it went off its chops. People loved it because I was like, you can't buy this shit at the shops. Like the connection that you have, the authenticity, the depth, the trust. You can't buy that. It has to be cultivated through, daily habit and actions and being authentic yourself. And we're all on a journey. We're all learning different stuff. And I mean, I meet a friggin' million people these days. So I've got to be very discerning with who I'm going to share my time, effort, and energy with, as probably do you, because it's so important. So choose wisely, people. So go to Amanda's website if you want to have a look. If you want to come to Curated Lunch, reach out. I'll give you the link. And thank you so much for joining here today. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Any final wise words you want to leave everybody with before we round it up?
Well, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. And look, my final words is one of my favorite saying, which is look through the numbers to the stories they tell.
Just got goosebumps. I want to get that on a shirt. That'll be shiny object syndrome, Daisy. Don't do it. So look through the numbers at the stories they tell. Write it down.
They'll always tell you a story.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, will see you at the same time, same place next week. Wow, what an episode. Now here's the thing, knowledge is power, but action is where the magic happens. So if today's episode lit a fire in your belly and you're ready to cut the crap, do the thing and step into the woman you were born to be, then I've got something special for you. Join us inside the Rich Lady Revolution, the membership. It's your next level support system and soul-powered strategy space to redefine what it means to be rich. Rich in profit, peace, presence, and power. This is your invitation to experience what it's like to be fully supported and deeply connected with a world-class coach and a community of high-caliber women who get it. Women just like you. Women walking the path of aligned success with no more burnout, no more sacrifice, and absolutely no more hiding. Inside, you'll receive weekly accountability, rich conversations, and real-life tools to evaluate your income, your impact, and your inner world, all for just $149 a month with no lock-in contracts. So if you are serious about stepping into your rich lady identity, redefining success on your terms, and making meaningful money without losing yourself in the process, head over to www.those2sisters.au/membership, or come join the conversation on our Facebook page, The Rich Lady Revolution. Your next level isn't just calling, it's right here, waiting for you. Trust me, your future self will thank you for it.